Hey, Gubi, how's it going?
Hey Phil, what do you want to talk about today?
So we've built this plugin called the Sub together, and a big shout out to Dimitro who's helped us with the graphics on that, and the three of us have built this out. So I thought it'd be cool to get together and talk about various aspects of it over the next while. But today we could just talk about where this idea came from, because I was working on kind of more minimal plugins and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've been doing this for a long time, thinking about this idea. So when did you first think of the Sub?
Well, actually, I can show you a thing. It all started with Ableton rack thing, where I sampled a sub that I made. I don't even remember what synth I used for that thing, but I sampled each note and I put it into an Ableton rack thing, and I made an instrument out of it. And that's what I was using on my tracks. And I even sent this to other guys, and they loved it because I processed every single sample to sound the same in volume, and it's already compressed. You don't have to do nothing. And I even put a macro on the, Ableton allows you to have macros, and you can map them to everything.
Yeah.
And so I even did a saturation thing, a saturation macro mapped to a couple of different plugins, like probably, of course, a saturator, an EQ, a filter, and I don't remember exactly, but we can show it. And that's how I started thinking about this thing.
Yeah.
Why don't we start and make this Ableton rack a thing?
Yeah.
So it was probably 2016, 17.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't even remember. I can check on the creation of that thing, but yeah, it started like that. And then, of course, it's okay if you use Ableton, but it's not okay if you use Logic, because you don't have that possibility.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Of
course, yeah. I mean, the tools are awesome now that you can capture things in certain DAWs and make up your own template. So I've actually a big template for when I'm producing that has all the bits and pieces the way I like them laid out. But there's nothing like refining it down into a really simple tool that you can just reach for. And I think, I've been thinking along the same lines, because even though I had these really powerful templates and various things built up, I was still finding it, cumbersome to actually even maintain all that. And a new version of Cubase comes out or something, and everything, even just within Cubase starts changing. So I sort of see where you're coming from.
And but you know what's funny? I always start from scratch. I've never used once in my life a template.
Really?
And that's also another idea, because I always start from scratch, and then when I have to build a sub, I always start from kind of a sine wave or a saw wave. Yeah. It depends on the key of the track that I'm working on, and we can talk about that in another video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always start from scratch, so it's always boring to choose the synth, then compress, saturate, filter, and do all this stuff every time. And I don't know why I always do like this. And I always start from scratch. I don't even have a drum template, nothing, not even an orchestral template, even if I produce a lot of orchestral stuff, because it's like having a blank piece of paper, and you can start draw whatever you want. So it allows you to have more creativity. But yeah, here's where a tool like the Sub can come and help you, because you just need to scroll through the presets, and you can have the one you were looking for.
So in many ways it is taking like the workflow that you refined over the years, like that multi-step process that you went through every time. Because one thing I really noticed when we started working together is that every single question I had about, like, will we do this with pitch? We do this with octaves? And you're like, no, it just needs this. No, I just want. And I was like, oh, nice one. Actually, that's a lot less code I have to write and maintain. And then there's other things, but it really must have this glide function or a drive that I'm like, okay, well, that is going to, a bit more work. So that's where we did put the effort in. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. And then what happened then between that and then when we met in terms of developing the idea further?
Well, I actually started mocking it up with like an online tool that allows you to to have some knobs and stuff, and you can put them together, and we can show it. I made this kind of really really bad looking thing, but it shows you exactly the idea of having this pretty simple VST instrument that allows you to go straight to the point. So you don't have to tweak a lot of knobs, and it's cool if you want to add more character. But the sub, it's also a technical thing into the mix. It's not a really really distinctive sound. It doesn't give you an identity unless it's unless your track is just, for example, a kick and a sub. So you can put, I don't know, a beat crasher on it. You can go a bit more with the distortion, or it's just a simple sine wave. But I started with this mockup, and then I realized that I even have maybe two controls. And then when we met up, then we decided to have less control, so to be even more simple. That's kind of how it started. I had this thing, and I even started building a prototype, but it never worked. And fortunately, we met up after I don't know, 3 years of me having this idea and you having the idea of building minimal synths. So that it was perfect to meet up.
No, that was it was great. And I think the thing as well with sub bass, because I remember a lot of the journey I went through as in the early days in production, and being really confused by certain things and all this like advice people give you or things you read on forums about how to do something. It can be really confusing. And actually sub bass was one of those areas, because it's the one area whereby you're a bit worried about your room, where you're producing, like whether the sound is going to be okay and everything else, anything from 100, 200 hertz above, you're going to be able to make some kind of stab at it. You listen to it in headphones, you listen to it in different places, and you can kind of align on what the sound will be. But then the sub area is just this kind of, oh no, like you're worried about it, because it actually, those are the frequencies that really come out in the room as well, and your whole room reverberates as you go. Even though the same volume tone might be coming out of your speakers, actually in the room it sounds very different.
That's why it's also good to have a really good pair of headphones to reference.
Exactly. Just as another reference. But hopefully, I think that's come through on working the sub as well. I've kind of been able to solve that problem, that that it's not that you've done something in a synth from scratch and then maybe hit some kind of keyboard track button by accident and the volumes are all, or anything. That if you across the keyboard, that we've already done the work to kind of make everything consistent. So if you do hear a difference in your room or something, then it's probably your room. Hopefully that helps a bit.
I came from a producer perspective. You came also from a producer perspective, but you're more into programming, of course, than me, and you're a programmer. And why would you rather make a simple synth instead of a huge wavetable with a lot of control? Subtractive synthesizer.
I think like with any type of product development, when you go out there and you look at everything out there, you want to be able to compete, or you want to be able to get in there and add something of value and not just repeat something that's been done before. And I think the real natural way to feel that you need to add more to music in this case is to go out and look at the enormous synths and go, right, I now need to make an even larger synth. So I need to make something like really massive. But when you look at something like Serum that has been, first commit, over 8 years ago, 9 years ago or something?
So I think 2014.
Yeah, 2014. Okay, so I mean, many, many years of development, right? And obviously it's been extended over that period. So, and also, if I was to sit down, okay, maybe and work on something like that for 6 years, you could, but also what value are you adding to people if you're just, copying another synth or something like that? I was very conscious of that, not just about that particular synth or anything, but about the audio market in general. First of all, that there were just so many tools doing so much, and I felt the bit that was missing that people needed are actually help being more productive, and having tools that help streamline the workflow. And the thing about synths is that there's just so many dials and knobs there now that if you get a new one, you have to spend a huge amount of time learning just how to use that one particular synth. So it's actually a big investment of your time. And then when you want to make a simple sound, you then have to do it through this interface of so many different things. So point number one was I just kind of felt that there was just a need for more minimal tools. And then I suppose the second part is just as a producer, as I was producing more and more over the years, I'm thinking back to the first bit of feedback I ever got on one of my tracks where I entered it into a competition. And the feedback came back. It was printed in a magazine. I'm that old, so I had to wait for the magazine to come out. And I went down, and it said, Phil Mac, and it said, less is more. It was the feedback. So I had piled everything into this remix, and I already thought it was quite minimal. And this less is more thing has kind of become kind of this background advice I've always had as a producer to myself. As I've made my tracks less over the years, they've definitely improved in terms of people being more interested in them. And the biggest thing that added to that was going out DJing and seeing how sometimes it's just playing, a kick or a drum loop, and people go mad. They don't actually need everything else around it until you build up into more. So as a producer, I was just actually things are much better when they just get smaller and smaller and more minimal, and I can reach for something and then go for it. I think that raises the question with sound design, though, is if you want to create something unique sounding, and you're just always reaching for that.
There's always room to room to let you experiment with huge synths and create whatever.
Yeah. But maybe in one track you're experimenting, you're doing that on the leads, but everything else is just your sound of some drums or or something that you're more comfortable with, and your message is coming through the other part. So for the parts that are not your kind of main creative area in a particular track, maybe you just want to reach for something that works.
Yeah.
So that was my view on it. Then we met. Then of course you had this idea for the sub, and obviously we've a few more other things we're thinking of in this area. So it's really cool to kind of break it down. It's funny because when they look like the plugin looks small, it looks like it took just as much work as far as I'm concerned as building a much bigger synth. There is on the inside the ability to tweak various parameters, but we've purposely not exposed them out. So actually it's still a relatively complicated piece of software. Right, so that probably wraps up this one, man. And we will do another video talking through other bits about the sub and future projects. Speak soon.
Yeah.